Back. I hope you had a great weekend and that you're ready to start this week. So much has happened. Last week, we had a nice conversation about wisdom and the difference between information and knowledge, the difference between information and wisdom. And today, we're going to continue a little bit with that theme and try to see if we could walk away with a little bit more insight. It's important to note that while information is so important, we live in the information age, information really doesn't give me much knowledge, meaning information is just numbers, zeros, facts, code. It doesn't give me the ability to understand how to apply any of that information. The application of information can become wisdom. It becomes something bigger, more, which is what we're looking for as Jews. We want to be able to not just have the details, but we want to understand how to apply the wisdom, the information, the knowledge. So we left off last week in the chapter 9 in the book of Mishlei, the book of Proverbs. We are, hold on a second. We're back, and we're talking about this idea that a wisdom is at the core of what we want. We said im chokhmat lach latzat levadecha tasi. That's where we left off yesterday. We ended up in pasuk ten lechacham v'chachem od. Give wisdom to a wise man, he becomes even more wise. Okay. Hoda'ah letzadik v'yosef lekach. Teach a righteous man, and he's going to increase his learning. The idea that if your mindset is someone who wants to learn, if your mindset is someone who is a chacham, someone who's consistently koachma, asking questions, that person is going to bring more wisdom into his life. It's just about creating a mindset. It's an attitude. Are you of the mindset to just be a consumer or a producer? Consuming is easy. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my phone. I'm going to join a class. I'm going to consume the information. I'm not interested in you consuming information. My job as an educator is to inspire you to want to go ahead and become independent, to become self-sufficient. If I'm just giving you classes all day and all you're doing is listening and there's no real movement on your part, all I've done is created a bunch of charity cases on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook of people who just want to sit back and listen to classes. The goal of these things is to inspire you to go back, to challenge, to learn on your own, to become independent thinkers. That's what I want. So that's what King Solomon says. Ten lechachem v'chachem od. Give a wise man wisdom, and he becomes wiser. Techilat chokhmah yirat Hashem. This is where we ended last week. When the beginning of all wisdom is fear of God, understanding that there is a consequences to our actions. Ki bi yirbu yamecha v'yasifu lecha shnot chayim. When a wise man or someone older in the community gets a aliyah on Shabbat or on Monday and Thursday, we sing this Ki yirbu ya. Ki bi yirbu yamecha v'yasifu lecha shnot chayim. With me shall your days increase, and they will add to years of life. Now, remember, we said that the Torah is ultimately the ultimate expression of all wisdom, and therefore, when we're talking about wisdom, we're talking about not just the wisdom how to be a good Jew or how to serve God. We're talking about the wisdom that is necessary to live a meaningful life. Okay, this is the advantage of studying Torah. Torah is, yes, it's about how I apply the Jewish rules to my life, but it's also about building the habits necessary to devote to building my life. It's the same muscle. It's the muscle of developing myself. And if I'm not developing myself in one area of my life, I'm very unlikely going to develop myself in another area of my life. So if I'm passive, I'm passive. What is chayim yasifu l'chashanot? They'll add years to your life. These days refer to the days that we dedicate to God. There's a spiritual impact of days that are dedicated directly to the development of our spiritual process. And you think that involving yourself in spiritual growth will take you away from developing yourselves physically, and that's a mistake we make. That ultimately, that what we believe is that when you are building yourself up spiritually, you're also building yourself up physically. This is a mistake that we make. We often think that less is less and more is more. And there's this idea in Judaism that often when you prepare, when you develop, when you invest in yourselves, right? And in your spirituality, and therefore you're unable to go ahead and go out and develop your physical things during those times. I'll give you an example. You got to pray Shachrit, Mincha, Arbit. You got to go find kosher food. You got to find the community. All those things you believe detract from your physical opportunities. And what Shlomo Melech over here is saying is the opposite. That when you invest in your spiritual development, what ends up happening is you also increase the days of your life. You increase your impact in the physical world. You impact your ability to achieve more in physical things. It's not just a spiritual growth that you're developing, but the spiritual growth leads to all physical growth, wealth, prosperity, happiness, health. It's all tied into that one concept. There's a direct correlation. I don't know if it's proven yet, but I guarantee you'll see that as in America, and this is probably true in all countries, as countries became more and more atheistic, you also probably will find an increase in the unhappiness of those people as well. I'm not saying that the only way to be happy is to be a believer in God. I'm just saying that people that have a God, have a Torah to believe in, they have a pathway to achieving happiness. They have a pathway to achieving happiness. They have a pathway to achieving greatness. And it's really those things that we really value. No matter how many times you go to the store to buy yourself a Gucci bag or to buy yourself Chanel or whatever, you'll enjoy it for that moment, but it's never going to satiate and satisfy you. The things that satisfy and satiate us is when we're going out and we're volunteering, we're helping people, when we're giving our time, we're trying to make connections, we're trying to help people become bigger, better. It's when we give our tzedakah, it's when we do those kinds of things that we actually tap into the truest essence of who we are. So let's continue and see what else King Solomon says over here. He says, Im chokhmat lach. If you become wise for yourself. V'letzat levadecha tisa. And if you scorn, right, you will bear it alone. So what does that mean over here? When we talk about that, how we motivate ourselves, he's saying over here, Im chokhmat lach. If you want to become wise, who are you doing it for? Not for money. We've mistakenly believed that the purpose of education is so we can have a career. This is nonsense. The purpose, the function of education is not about making money. Education is about becoming a well-rounded individual. It's about becoming an individual that has the ingredients to have a successful life in every area of your life. I don't want to just have wisdom for the sake of having wisdom. I want wisdom so I could use it to become a better husband. I want to become a better son. I want to become a better brother. I want to become a better community member. I want to become a better me in every area of my life. So what's the ultimate motivation for wisdom? He says for yourself. If you don't feel a sense of responsibility to upgrade your own understanding of the world, there's going to be no other motivation but that. Any other side motivation is a distraction. Oh, I'm looking for wisdom so I can make more money. Not going to help you. Not going to make more money. I'm looking for wisdom because I want to be wise, because I understand the value of what wisdom is, the value of chokhmah, koach ma. Again, the word chokhmah comes from the word koach ma, the power of asking what? Asking questions. If I'm not questioning everything about my life will be somewhat dimmer. There's so much more vibrancy to the world, but I'll never know if I don't ask the question. The most important lesson we can teach our children is to become critical thinkers, to teach them to think on their own, to be able to question everything. I'm not saying to give up and to be complacent and to be, somewhat agnostic about life. That's not what I'm talking about. Asking questions means that I'm committed firmly to my beliefs, but yet at the same time, I'm not afraid of challenging those beliefs. There's a difference. The first Bible critics, the first people to criticize the Pesukim, the verses in the Torah themselves were whom? The rabbis. The rabbis are there to teach you that even the word of God has to be scrutinized. If you're not willing to challenge everything, you're losing out on the human experience. This is what it means to be Jewish. You ask two rabbis a question, you get back, 3 answers. This is what it means to be a Jew. It's always look for questions, always look for answers, never giving up, never being satisfied with something that you're uncomfortable with. But where's the motivation got to come for? It's got to come for you. You can't want to be more Jewishly for somebody else. I got a phone call on Sunday. A nice lady who has a son who's 40 years old, and he's not married, and he started dating a nice Oriental woman from China, and they're about to get engaged. And she calls me and she says to me, Rabbi, what can I do? I said to her, why are you calling me now? Why are you calling me now? It's a little too late. You should have called me 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You're calling me now. He's already dating someone. But okay, so what do you do now? So I said to her, well, what do you want to do? She's like, well, maybe you could get the girl to convert, maybe she'll this and that, maybe she'll inspire him. I'm like, unlikely. If you're not going to get him to want to ask questions, you're not going to get him to want to clarify why he's marrying someone out of his faith. There's no way on earth this person's going to change. There's nothing you can do. It's got to be for himself. If you can go ahead and get him to see the value in understanding, questioning for himself, then you have a chance. But if it's not, if it's for you, if it's for her, isn't that it? It's not going to happen. Not going to go anywhere. We have to teach our children to own the things they believe in, not just to take my heritage and here's your heritage and this is what you got to do because this is what it means to be Jewish. Not good enough anymore. The storms are blowing. It used to be the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. It used to be that we grew up like our parents did. My parents were good people. My grandparents, because the apple fell right there. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't roll down the hill. But today, my friends, it is a storm outside. The winds are blowing really hard. And if we don't firmly plant emunah, we don't firmly plant the Jewish education, the values in our children, and going to school is not the answer. Going to school is half the answer. Jewish education, all that does is give your kids the understanding that, here's information again. But there's no applying it to life. Getting your kid to yeshiva doesn't solve the problem. Yeshiva is good at creating a social environment for your kid. That's it. But if we don't bring in that information at home, if we don't live the Torah, if we don't inculcate those ideals into our belief, into our bloodstream, into our soul, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be stuck. You gotta be, if you want wisdom, it's gotta be for you and for nobody else. You gotta own it. And if you don't, you're going to have scorn. You're going to have all these reason to be upset. You're going to have all sorts of bad feelings. Levadecha tisa. That's bear it alone. That's on you. Don't blame anybody else. Just you bear the load on yourself. And he continues, Eshet kisilot homia. A woman of folly is turbulent. Petayot ubal yada'a ma. She is simple and knows nothing. Right? We're going back to this idea of a temptress. Right? After speaking about the chokhmah and the words that chokhmah is pleasant and its teachings are beautiful and they force us to develop and grow ourselves. Now, the last psukim over here, the last 5-6 psukim talk about the contrast of a woman of wisdom with rebelliousness, of the woman of folly. So in the beginning you have a woman who represents this brilliant genius parts of who we are. Now you have a woman of folly, right? She makes an uproar attempting to influence people towards evil. And let's continue to see over here what Shlomo Melech says. He says, V'yashva lepetach beita. She sits at the entrance of her house. Al kiseh, on a chair, morima karet, on the heights of the city. She's part of the, she's sitting in front of her house. She's got a nice lawn chair out there. And, she's sitting at the gates of the city. She's part of a high society, right? She's part of the high society. The Malbim says that it's talking about two different women here. Okay, there's two ways over here. One, the woman of foolishness. She turns away from wisdom because has this very deep appetite for forbidden things. She's rebellious and she tries to entice men to join her. And then there's a woman of simpleness. She's ignorant. She's naive. She does wrong because she doesn't know any better. She doesn't ask the questions. Therefore, if she becomes wiser, either learning from others or coming to the realization of what is right, she will relent from her attraction to evil. She's going to change her ways. But there's very little hope of an intentional foolish person will improve. It's very, very difficult to get someone who's foolish to improve. However, a woman of foolishness makes an uproar and shouts foolish things, but she doesn't even know what she's saying. She's completely lost. Why does she sit at the entrance? She's arrogantly sitting on a high perch so that everyone's going to hear her shouting. Everyone's going to hear her insults. Everyone's going to hear her vilification and wisdom. She's going to talk about all the things she hates. Right now, what's interesting, Rabbeinu Bachya points out that a modest woman, she sits birketi habayit, she sits in the inner chamber of her house, and not openly in the front of her house, where everyone would see her. Right? The Torah praises the virtue of kol kvoda bat melech pnima. The complete glory of a princess, of a woman, is within. That's a pasuk in Tehillim. Chokhmah is described as sending her girls out to the call, but not going out herself. Here, the woman is immodestly. She's shouting at the entrance. She's in front of everybody, and therefore, symbolically, this pasuk contrasts the benefits of Torah with the beauty of inner beauty and the futility of idolatry. Right? The Torah encompasses the totality of all that is good, of all that is beneficial, and it reaches out to guide others into the correct path. However, the idolaters, right, they extend themselves to mislead others, to encourage evil. You don't see a rabbi standing at the corner telling people, come to the Beit Midrash. Maybe you do today, you have outreach rabbis, but generally speaking, the rabbis are very, very tznu'ah. They're doing everything in a very quiet way, and maybe we shouldn't be doing. Maybe today we need to stand up and get in people's faces. Maybe the Chabad approach of getting people to just wrap tefillin all day is the right approach. I don't know if it's the right approach or not. But there is this idea that when you build your home, you got to build it in a way that is tznu'ah. You got to build it in a way that is modest. That the real glory of a person is from within. Kol kvoda bat melech penima. It's inside. Okay. The woman neither builds her house. She doesn't go out and build a house. That's not her job. She's not. How many women do you know that lay bricks, or how many women do you know are lumberjacks? I don't know any. I don't know any. How many women are in construction? Right. A woman is not a hunter for the most part. Right. Women are not going out with bows and arrows, and they're not going to the forest to catch the food. Men do that. A woman doesn't go out and she's not mixing the wine. Right. Right? These are symbolic of the fact that what a person needs preparation to attain chokhmah, right? But the same is not true for wickedness. We saw the wicked woman going out and building a home, preparing the meat, mixing the wine. But over here, the wicked person, she's just standing there. Because wickedness doesn't require any preparation. Laziness doesn't require any preparation at all. There's no foresight. I'm just going to sit and do nothing. It's easy. I do nothing. I just am. We reject that. Al kiseh meromi karet. On a chair of the city heights, she wants to do this because she wants everyone to hear her. Right? Foolishness comes with arrogance, and therefore there's an association with the chair at the city of heights. Right? You're just arrogant and you're a fool. Okay, why? Why is she doing this? She's doing this for very simple reasons. Likroa le'ovrei derech hameshirim or chotam. She's sitting at the entrance, at the heights of the city, to call to the passerbys who are going straight on their way. Mi peti yasur hena v'chasar lev amra lo. Whoever is simple, let him turn here. And whoever is devoid of sense, and she says to them, Maim gnuvim yimtaku, belechem sotrim yinam. Stolen waters are always sweeter, and bread eaten in secret is always more pleasant. V'lo yada ki refaim sham ba'omke shaul kureha. But he doesn't know that the shades are there. Her guests are in the depths of the grave. Ultimately, she's pulling him down to do evil. Okay, let's double click on all that. That was a lot that was just said. To call out to the passerbys. She's calling out to the innocent people, to the people that are upright. Why? Because she wants to mislead them. This is direct contrast to someone who's looking for wisdom, which is there to correct our path. There's a metaphor for one's desires, right? So we portray our desires as sweetness. This is based on the Zohar. The Vilna Gaon says that the evil inclination goes through great efforts, particularly when a sinner wishes to repent for the sins, or when he wants to study Torah and the 4 commandments. He is trying to make everything else better. You could do anything, but don't go to the synagogue. You could do anything, and it's so much fun doing it, but just don't go to the gym. Don't do the things you need to do. Just do something else, and you find it infinitely better. Why is that? Why am I not involved in doing exactly what I need to be doing every single moment of the day? Why is it so hard? Because we believe there's an evil force that's trying to get you to do the opposite. Mi peti yasur heina v'chasar lev amar. Whoever is simple, if one lacks an understanding heart, she says, just come and be with me, do my thing. Don't worry about anything else. You'll be okay. You'll be totally fine just living in a world where I am, providing for you all the distractions necessary to prevent you from being you. I don't know about you, but I want to be something bigger. I want to be something more. I don't want to be controlled by my base nature. I want to become something bigger. So just as wisdom admonishes people to abandon their foolishness, the foolish woman tries to convince them to remain in their folly. She convinces them to remain in their silliness, convinces them to remain in a place where they're doing nothing. Right? Stolen waters are sweet, and the bread eaten in secret is even more pleasant. So the evil inclination follows the example of the cunning serpent. This is the same serpent that tempted evil, tempted Chava, Eve, to eat the forbidden fruit by telling her that it tastes so awesome. Just taste a small piece. It'll open your eyes. You'll be like God, knowing good and bad. The temptress insists that forbidden immorality is incomparably more exciting and enjoyable than boring family life. Now, thank God I have a very happy marriage. So I'm never enticed by the things the outside world has. But so I can't say this with certainty, but I'm only from hearing from my friends who are miserable and who made mistakes. They're not happier living a life doing whatever they want to do. There's no glory in doing whatever you want to do. There's only misery. It's a false narrative. It's a counterfeit pleasure. Having a monogamous, healthy marriage can be the most profound thing in the world if you understand what its goal and function is. But if you're distracted, my friends, if you haven't spent time clarifying what it is you're trying to do, the West will teach you that, oh, you could do all these other things. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. There is more depth, beauty, and pleasure in living a life with boundaries than living a life and doing whatever you want to do. It doesn't work. You can't be happy. Having everything, it means you have nothing. Right? This is how easy it is. People are so enticed by sin because the allure of what's there. I want a little bit more. Maybe that's a little bit better. Maybe I'll get a little bit more of that. And it's false. It's sheker. It's hevel. It's false. Be happy with what you have. Be happy with who you are. Be happy with the boundaries, the constraints that you have, because they help define who you are. They will bring you happiness, not everything. She does not know that the dead men are there, right? The word Rephaim are those who are weakened by death. Those who are attracted to her don't realize that what is she doing? She's leading them to death. You think that by sitting there and binge watching or being on YouTube or doing whatever distraction is going to help you, every time you do that, my friends, you are dragging yourself one step closer to the grave. Be focused, my friends. We have so much to do. The world is so broken. I don't want to wait, God forbid, to a time where there are Nazis again in the streets dragging Jews out to their death. And we're going to sit back and regret that we didn't do the things we were meant to do. How much time do we need to be reminded of who we are? Take advantage of these moments. We live in a time of peace, relative peace, my friends. For Jews, this has been the best 70, 80 years for Jews. No matter what, however the challenge has been, we've had it good. Every time your Yetzer Hara distracts you, my friends, it is leading you to the grave. Right? Don't follow her. Don't follow her counsel. Follow the counsel of Chokhmah. If you follow Chokhmah, you're going to merit to longevity. You're going to have everything in this world and the world to come. But those people who are enticed by this temptress, this evil folly, they're going to die before their time, God forbid, and they're going to descend into the deepest, deepest grave. Okay, the guests of the foolish woman are being lured to a spiritual death by destroying their own souls. Who has to blame for this? Who is going to take the responsibility for it? You are, and no one else. We look back at our lives, and old people are filled with regret. I'm not going to be filled with regret. I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. I'm going exactly where I want to go. I'm using my time to the best of my ability to be the best that I can. I love teaching and working with the people that I work with. I love it. And I can only tell you that I get so much chizuk to want to do more and more and more and more. I don't feel like I'm lacking anything. I grew up in a world where I had everything. And I promise you, I also had nothing. When I became observant, when I started becoming more observant, when I started spending more time learning the halachot and living in a world of halacha that governed my life, I found more power, I found more strength, I found more confidence. I found that things started working for me in a different kind of way. I wasn't anxious. This is exactly what he's speaking about over here. He wrote these psukim 2,500 years ago, and they're still true because at the core of who we are hasn't changed. You want to understand why depression is so high? You want to understand why people are so unhappy, why they're always chasing, looking for other things? It's because they've never spent time clarifying who they are, where they're going. They haven't found any chokhmah in their lives. If you're truly looking for chokhmah, my friends, you will find yourselves sitting in a room with everything that you need to be besimcha. My bracha to each of you is that you recognize that all you need to do is become a mevakesh. You have to want chokhmah. All you got to do is ask. You ask, the pasuk says, you ask, open your heart up. The size, with the eye of the needle, that little eye of the needle. Open it up that little bit. You put a little thread in there, open it up a little bit. And God will open up the gates of chokhmah for you. He'll open up the gates of parnasah, chokhmah, briut, all of it for you. All you got to do is be mevakesh. You got to want it. It's not going to happen. You can't do it for anybody else. It can't be for your kid. It can't be for your spouse. It can't be for your boyfriend. It can't be for the rabbi. It's got to be for you. You got to own it. And when you do, you're not going to stop. And everything will start flowing down for you. And you will find yourselves in a world of complete, utter awesomeness. Have an amazing week. I hope that you're all safe, that you're doing great. If you have questions, I'll take them now. Otherwise, we'll start chapter 10, God willing, next Monday night.